Most women actually don't know this, but you are constantly teaching the people around you, the men around you, how to treat you. And so if you're going to teach them how to treat you anyway, you might as well consciously and deliberately teach them how to treat you the way that you want to be treated. So if you are excited to learn how to teach a man how to treat you, type yes into the chat and let's get started. Hello, my name is Matthew Coast and welcome to my channel. I've got 10 different things that you need to do in order to make sure that you're teaching men and other people in your life how you want to be treated. So the more of these that you can do, the better you'll be treated by men and everyone else around you. So let's get started. Number one is you need to, this is the foundation for everything. You need to believe that you are worth being respected and treated as if you are valuable. If you don't believe it, it doesn't matter what you say, what you do, all the other things that you do don't actually matter, because ultimately what will end up coming up and out of you is this belief that you don't that you don't really believe that you should be treated well, and it'll come through your communication. It'll come through the way that you interact with everyone around you. And so you need to make sure that you start with believing it first. So here's how you do that. Number one, you want to change the way you talk to yourself. So notice what you're saying. And if it isn't kind, if it isn't encouraging, if you're beating yourself up, any of that kind of stuff, what you want to do is replace it immediately. Immediately replace whatever you're saying and start using the Queen's mantra instead. And the Queen's mantra goes like this: I am valuable, I am worthy, I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable, I am worthy, I deserve to be cherished. I am valuable, I am worthy, I deserve to be cherished. And every time you say it 3 times. This is the Queen's mantra. Repeat it over and over again. If you ever catch yourself beating yourself up, verbally attacking yourself, change your language and use the Queen's mantra to replace it. Practice treating yourself well. So that's the second part of it, is you want to start practicing just loving on yourself, treating yourself well, just taking care of yourself, doing things for yourself, finding out what your own love language is, and then giving to yourself through your own love language. So for instance, my top love language is physical touch. And so one of the things that I like to do is go get massages for myself, because I love it. I absolutely love it. I love when people touch me or hug me or any of that kind of stuff. And so a lot of times I'll go get massages just to love on myself, or even just caressing myself or touching myself, touching my hair, any of that kind of stuff. It's really, really powerful. And then the other thing that you want to do to believe that you deserve it is to start taking on an empowering identity. Sometimes we talk about these different things like being a queen or being a goddess or being a high value woman. And sometimes we have women get on here and they'll criticize this idea of using these different archetypes or different kind of labels when we're talking about women in our community. And the reason that we use that kind of stuff is because when you take on an identity for yourself, it's one of the most powerful forces that you can have, because when you take on the identity, you start acting as if you are that identity. And so you want to take on a really empowering identity. And so if that's goddess or queen, that's great. If you don't like those things, don't use them. But find something that does work for you. You can use high value woman or gentle soul or lovable woman or whatever you want, right? Just create your own. If you don't like the ones that we have for you, create your own and use it, and just find something that creates that identity that you want to have of who you want to be, and then take on that identity. Find clothing that says it. We're actually probably going to be selling clothing like that here pretty soon. Just find things to remind yourself that you are that identity that you want to be. And that's how you do it. So if you're here with us right now, say hi and tell us where you are in the world watching this in the chat. It's cool to see women from all over the world watching these live streams. So number 2 is know how you want to be treated and how you don't want to be treated. So make a list, right? Figure it out. Actually consciously take some time and think about it. Just write it down. Take 5-10 minutes and just write down all the ways that you want to be treated and all the ways that you don't want to be treated. Watch some of my videos if you want to get better ideas on how you want to be treated. Be a part of our community and see examples of ways that women are being treated that you want and ways that women are being treated that you don't want, and just figure it out. Get really clear on what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want. The better you know what you like and that you don't like, the better you will be prepared for when it does or doesn't happen, so that then you know what you can do about it and when you should be doing something about it. Number 3 is you want to start learning to trust your intuition. So our intuition is one of the most powerful things that we have. And for women, I hear it's even more powerful than it is for men. And what you want to do is just start feeling it, just listening to it, just getting in touch with it, just communicating with it, and get into a practice of communicating with it and getting in touch with it and just listening to what it says and how you feel and what you should or shouldn't be doing according to your intuition. Because your intuition will tell you a lot of times if things are off, or things are things that you don't like, or if you're being disrespected, or if something's like out of sync. A lot of times your intuition will tell you, even if your logical mind isn't picking up on it. So if you connect with your intuition, it can be a really, really powerful thing. And then if you're on a date or you're with other people, you don't have to worry about trusting them as much, because then you can just trust yourself and your own intuition and know whether you're in a good situation or not. And then you don't have to worry as much about what other people are doing and whether they're doing the right thing when you're not around and whether you can trust them and all that, because your intuition will end up telling you, and then you can just trust that to make sure you're getting yourself into good situations and making sure that you don't get into bad situations, and making sure that if you do get into a bad situation, you get yourself out of it. Number 4 is you want to practice saying what it is that you want. So this is really, really important. And if you've gone through any trauma in your past or had some kind of big challenges from your past or your childhood, a lot of times you might not really be in a space where you feel like you can communicate what it is that you want. And so it might be something that you need to practice. But always remember, if you don't communicate what you want, he won't know, other people won't know what it is that you want. We all grew up in different environments. Sometimes women come to me and they're like, men, they know what they should be doing. And honestly, they don't, right? Like they may have been in different relationships where there are different expectations and different standards for how the woman wanted to be treated. It could be completely different than what you want. They might have grown up in a family environment where things were completely different in that family environment, and they weren't expected to do certain things, or they got role models where their parents were acting a certain way that's totally different than what it is that you want. So it's very, very important that you not only know what you want, but that you communicate what it is that you want, so that there's no guesswork there, and he knows what his role is and what your standards are for how he should be behaving when he's around you, and why you pull away if you do end up pulling away from him, or you're setting boundaries and all that kind of stuff. So what you want to do is start by finding things that you like and that you don't like. We talked a little bit about that before. And then what you want to do is start small in terms of talking about it, and then work your way up to being bigger. So little things maybe that you like, and just, I would like to go there, or I would like to see that, or I would like to eat there, or things that you don't like. I really don't like that, or I don't want to go there, or I don't want to do that, or any of that kind of stuff, right? It's kind of a small thing. Like, you don't have to be talking about it in terms of something that you're doing, but maybe you're talking about it in terms of, it comes up in a conversation, or you're driving down the road and you see a sushi restaurant and you're like, yeah, I really like sushi. I'd love to go there sometime. I've never been to that restaurant. right? And it's just bringing it up when you can and talking about it in a regular conversation so that you're kind of building that muscle and building your own confidence in terms of talking about what it is that you want and what it is that you don't want. Other ways to do it, and you can actually shape behavior with this when you're saying things like that's attractive or that's not very attractive, and you can talk about it in terms of things that other guys are doing or other people are doing or things that he's doing, like, oh, that was really, that was really attractive, that was really hot, right? And basically you're not only saying what it is that you want, but you're also potentially shaping his behavior because you're creating positive associations to behavior that you want him to engage in. Another one is setting standards. So I've talked about this in some of my other programs and whatnot. And the way that you set standards is what you're doing is you're really giving him a target to go to. And so the way that you, or a target to stay away from, right? And so the way that you do this is you say things like, I only date guys who. So I only date guys who make me a priority, or I only date guys who act like a gentleman, or I only date guys who put time and energy into being with me. And you can say this in terms of something that he's doing or not doing, or you can just say it generally about guys that you date or don't date. So another way that you might say this is, I only want to spend time with you. So if you're talking to him about something, I only want to spend time with you if you take my needs into consideration or something like that, right? And so you're basically setting a groundwork for, hey, this is the standard that I have and you need to live up to it if you want to spend time with me. Or I don't date guys who take me for granted or something like that, right? And so that was number 4. We're on number 5 now, and we've got 10 of these. If you get what I'm talking about here, say, I get it in the chat. If you don't get what I'm talking about, you can ask your questions and I will get to them here at the end. So number 5 is practice asking for what it is that you want. So this is kind of the next step from saying what it is that you like to actually asking what it is that you want. And so this can be scary sometimes, especially if somebody might say no, and you have to be prepared that somebody might say no. Just realize that if somebody does say no, it probably doesn't have anything to do with you. It might have something to do with them or something around their associations to different things. So don't take it personally necessarily. So the way that you do this is you just say, could we go do this, right? So I really like sushi. Could we go do that sometime? And so you're just kind of throwing it out there like, hey, I'm asking if we can do this at some point in the future. You can also ask in very specific situations, right? Like sometimes guys are known to ask you what you want to eat, and actually telling him what it is that you want to eat can be a really powerful thing. If you know what you want to eat. A lot of women are notorious for having no idea what they want to eat. So if you don't know, that's okay. Number 6 is practice saying no to what you don't like. So this is the next step from saying what you don't like, is saying no to what you don't like. So you teach, like I said, you teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate or what you don't tolerate. And so practice setting boundaries and just figure out what it is. Like if you're, let's say you're trusting your intuition, you feel like something's off, or you feel like he's kind of pushing things too fast or going in a direction that's not taking your needs into consideration or something like that, you can set a boundary around it where you say something like, I'd love to do that sometime in the future, but I'm not ready for that right now. Or you can say, I'm not that kind of a girl, or I'm not really into that, or I'm not interested in doing that right now. And so the next thing that you can do is practice saying no to things that don't interest you. I'm not really interested in doing that, just like I said in the last example. Next one is practice communicating what you don't like. So if you feel pressure, and so this is kind of a caveat, if you feel pressure in any situation, it's okay if you walk away, because sometimes, especially if you've dealt with a bunch of trauma in your past, you might not feel okay to kind of communicate and talk about things. You feel a lot of pressure and you feel it building up and you feel like you just need to leave and you don't really know what to say or how to say it. It's okay to do that. as long as you end up communicating later on when you've kind of calmed down about the situation so that the other person knows what's going on. You need to practice, and it's better if you practice saying it in the situation so that the other person knows what's going on with you in that situation. Because a lot of times if you just disappear or you just stop talking to them or you just start creating silence, that can actually be toxic or abusive behavior in the other direction. You're trying to protect yourself, but you end up hurting another person while you're trying to protect yourself, which isn't good behavior either. So number 7 is you remove people from your life who don't treat you well. So who you have around you makes one of the biggest impacts on how you behave, what you think, what you experience in your life. And so if you want this to kind of stick and you want to kind of build confidence around believing in your own value and making sure that you're getting treated well by a guy, then my suggestion is that you create a clean slate from the very beginning and ask yourself who should and shouldn't be in your life. Who should you have and shouldn't you have in your life? And just get rid of any kind of people who don't respect themselves unless they're working on it as well. There's a lot of people who will kind of get stuck in this victim mentality. It's really kind of popular because people will give you a lot of validation for yourself if you're like, oh, woe is me and everything's wrong. The problem is that you don't really get what you ultimately want, which is love. But you will get a lot of validation from people if you're in that victim mentality. And so you want to get away from anybody who constantly stays in that victim mentality and isn't trying to grow out of it if they are in it. You want to get rid of people who push past your boundaries. You want to get rid of people who don't take your needs into considerations. And this includes family, friends, romantic partners, doesn't matter who they are. You want to create a life for yourself where you're strong and you're healthy. And the only way that you can really do that is if you have strong and healthy people around you, or people who are trying to be strong and healthy from an internal and emotional standpoint. Fill your life with people who respect and honor you. So find people, go out there and actively find people who will respect you and treat you well. Join personal growth communities, because there's a lot of people in those communities who are growing and learning how to be better people and learning how to get rid of their traumas and deal with their issues and all that kind of stuff and become better versions of themselves. Number 8 is practice a middle ground in investments in relationships. So women who don't have strong boundaries tend to give too much of themselves in relationships before it's really appropriate. And if you want a man to really treat you well, you need to find that middle ground there, right? It's honorable and it's noble to give everything to a relationship from the very beginning, but it's not really, it's very unattractive. And you obviously, many times end up overly attached to a guy, and then you get hurt a whole bunch when you shouldn't even be overly attached or overly invested in the guy from the very beginning anyway. And so women who practice healthy boundaries, when they start to practice healthy boundaries, oftentimes they'll jump to the other extreme as well, right? So they'll go from one side where they're like over investing all the time to the other side where they're not investing at all, right? And they're just trying to get the guy to do all the investing because they're trying to protect themselves, and they're jumping to the other extreme. And that's not really healthy at all as well, because if a guy is coming from a healthy place, he's not going to want to feel like he's being taken for granted and he's doing everything. The best relationships are built together, and the magic is in the middle. So you don't want to go 100% in immediately, but you also build with the person who's building with you. You don't want to just have him doing everything. You want him to prove that he wants to build it with you, but you don't want him to always be doing everything. This helps you see red flags, but it also doesn't allow you to become one of the red flags. If you get what I'm talking about here, and if this makes sense, say yes in the chat. Say yes in the chat. I know we're going over a lot of stuff here, but I think it's really, really important stuff. So let's keep talking. We're on number 9. We've got 10 of them. So number 9 is learn the difference between toxic and healthy behavior. So make sure that you know when someone else is exhibiting or behaving in a toxic manner, right? Or they exhibit toxic behaviors so that you can communicate and remove yourself if necessary. But make sure that you're not also using toxic behavior so that you can attract a healthy person and get into a healthy relationship. Because if you are just making sure that they're healthy, but you're coming across as toxic, you're going to push away all the healthy people and only attract toxic people, because toxic people tend to attract other toxic people. And healthy people, if they have any experience at all, will realize when you are being toxic and they won't want to be in a relationship with you. So the question is, what do you want to experience in a relationship? What emotions do you want to feel, and how do you want to be treated? So think about these things. Spend some time thinking about these things and just looking for patterns. Find patterns. Become a pattern recognizer and recognize patterns that people are in when it's toxic and when it's healthy, and whether you're in a pattern of being toxic or healthy as well, which can be one of the most difficult things, because a lot of times when we're coming from a place of pain, we don't realize that we're the ones being toxic, but we are. We're the ones that are being toxic. And we think that everybody else is the ones that are being toxic, but it's actually us. And so it's another reason why it's really valuable and important to get a coach or be a part of a community and actually ask people with just an open mind about what's going on and whether, what they think is going on. Because if you join a big community where they're not really attached to you, they're far more likely to be honest with you. Or if you're with a coach, they're far more likely to be honest with you because you're paying them to be honest with you. And so you want to find out what's toxic and what's healthy behaviors, and what do I want to experience and what do I not want to experience in a relationship. That way you know when you're experiencing it or whether you're not experiencing it. And then number 10 is take ownership of what's yours and not for what's not yours. So you're responsible for how you communicate and how you behave, but you're not responsible for how others take your communication, and you're not responsible for how they behave. Obviously, what I'm not saying here is that you shouldn't think about how you're communicating to someone and whether it's coming across badly or not. But you also can't take total responsibility for how they respond to it. If you did a great job of communicating something well, you can't take responsibility for them for getting offended and taking it personally and, attacking you back and all that kind of stuff. So if you're not taking ownership of how you behave and communicate, you'll miss your chance to grow and improve and create better communication, right? You can be yourself and continue to grow and become a better version of yourself and learn how to communicate better and be a better person to other people in your life. You can take ownership. If you take ownership of their behaviors and how they take things, you'll end up beating yourself up for things that you have absolutely no control over. And you'll feel like you're out of control because you're trying to take ownership of something that's not yours. And so you don't ever want to take on things that aren't yours. Always grow, but don't take things on that aren't yours to take on. So that's it. What questions do you have? We'll go over questions about anything, about your situations, about anything that's going on here. And in the chat, what I want you to answer is what's something that you really love about yourself, or what's something that you really admire or appreciate about yourself. Say it in the chat. Hopefully you've got lots of different things that are really great here. Let's talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Greetings. Hungry. It's not far from where I am, actually. Yeah. Hello. Alexandra says, one of my significant love languages is physical touch as well. So I smear my body with different lotions and creams. Smearing my body all over with lotions and creams. That just sounds amazing, Alexandra. Sounds amazing. Wendy says, I'm very independent, Matt Coast, plus I'm older than you. Well, I am still your older brother. I don't care how old you are. I am your older brother, helping you out with older brother things that your older brother should have told you about. But maybe he didn't because he didn't know about it. And so I'm here to set the record straight and help you with things. Keaton says, hey, Houston, Texas, love this channel. Well, thank you, Keaton. Thanks for being here. I'm glad you love the channel. This person, women, says it's all about looks, money, status to Western. Get out of here. Get out of here, dude. Just get out of here. Take that toxic stuff somewhere else. Take that toxic stuff somewhere else. We don't want that here. We don't want that toxic stuff here. Get it. Get it. I tend to turn songs into like death metal songs. I hope you love it because I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Kim says, God bless you for helping to empower good women worldwide. Sending you much love and prayers from Minnesota. Well, thanks. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it. Welcome for being here. Welcome to being here. He's saying crazy things. Jennifer says, listening to your intuition can literally mean the difference between life and death. It's true. It's true. Jennifer has a good point, and she knows it. Lisa says, speak it into existence. That's what I'm talking about. Penny says, hi, Matt from Fla. My question is, if my intuition tells me something is off about a guy, is it okay to call them out on the issue or the behavior, or should I remain silent? Well, what you should do is look for patterns, right? It depends on what it is, right? It depends. So if you feel like your intuition's off and you feel like you're being disrespected, you can absolutely call that behavior out. However, if it's something else that's going on, for instance, it's a little bit deeper, a little bit bigger, you might want to just pay attention to patterns and look for patterns and just, like verify with actual evidence that there's something going on. For instance, if you're like, hey, I think my intuition's telling me that he's cheating. You want to actually verify that, right? You don't want to just start accusing guys of cheating if you feel like your intuition's telling you, but you have absolutely no evidence. You want to look for patterns and you want to make sure that there's something off there before you go and start accusing crazy things. You don't want to do that crazy. Yep. Cindy says communicating is so important. I agree. Communication is so important. So important. So important. So important. I was just blocking that troll we had. All right. Lots of people get it. Get it. Y'all get it? Get it. Loving your videos. Thank you, Susan. Rosalina says, yes, Matt, but I will not remove definitely because she is my sister, but I kept silent until now. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like, I have toxic family members. I'll just admit it. Some of my brothers, at least one of them, may or may not be toxic, or he may or may not have been toxic in the past. And it's one of those things where, if you can deal with it and it's on a small short-term basis, it's okay, right? If it's okay that you're connecting and that you're healing and that you're building love to that person, giving love to that person, if they're toxic and they're not in your life all the time. It's not okay if you're coming from a hurting place and you're trying to heal, but this person's around you a lot and they're pulling you down and they're keeping you feeling bad about yourself and keeping toxic kind of behaviors and patterns in your life. You don't want that to happen, right? And, if at some point they start healing and they come from a better place, you can reintroduce them into your life. If they're trying, right? If they're trying to do something better, you can reintroduce them into your life. That can be a very powerful and healing thing to do. Leela says, hi, Matt, from England. I met an amazing guy. I'm like doing the ninja thing again. Ninja. I met an amazing guy a few months ago. He came from nowhere and made the first move. It was all very sudden and intense emotionally, but about a month ago, he put a stop to it. I know he felt he couldn't commit due to work, but we had an amazing connection and had experienced similar bad things as a kid. He was caught completely by surprise with his feelings. We haven't been in contact for about 4 weeks. I really want to contact him, but I'm not sure what to say. Well, Leela, one of the challenges that you're having here is that you mentioned that, he can't commit, right, because of work. And so what you need to figure out, Leela, is being with this guy and being around this guy going to create an attachment for you that's going to hurt you. You should always be making sure that you're taking care of yourself first. If he told you that he can't commit because of work, you need to believe him. You need to believe what it is that he says, and he's disappeared, which means that you need to believe what he does. And so his words and his actions are in alignment right now. And they're saying that he's not for you right now. And so you need to just let him go, because otherwise you're going to be chasing him and trying to pull him back in and trying to, convince him that you're the right person for him. And instead, what you need to do is find somebody who's ready and willing to be in a relationship and be committed to you, because there's lots and lots of those guys all over the place that are really great people. And if you want any kind of contact with him, you need to make sure that it's friendship and that it's set up in your mind and compartmentalized in your brain that it's only a friendship. And if you can't do that, then you should just pull it off the table altogether and just allow somebody in your life who can actually give you what it is that you want. And, going back over what we've been talking about here, is you need to believe in your own value and be willing to walk away from anybody who's not willing to, be in alignment with what it is that you want in your life. And this guy's not in alignment. He might be in a lot of ways, but he's got something else going on, which is his work. And so as long as his work is such a big priority for him that he's not going to commit to you, then all you're doing by getting together with him is hurting yourself. It's like self pain that you're just inflicting upon yourself, right? And so you don't want to do that. You want to find somebody who's open and willing to have a relationship, and think about why it is that you want. I mean, you probably feel like, oh my God, this is a once in a lifetime connection, who has similar things in their past and all that kind of stuff. And the answer is there's probably a lot of people. And, I wouldn't have that as a basis for the only type of person that you want to be in a relationship with. You want to be in a relationship with somebody who's healthy, and maybe they don't get what it is that you went through when you're a child. But if they can at least empathize or have compassion for you and your situation, then and they're coming from a healthy place, that's a good place to be as well. And so this guy might be somebody on your path in life, but he might not be the relationship. He might not be the romantic relationship that you're looking for at this in your life right now, at least. And so my suggestion is that, Leela, is that you just let him go. You let him go for now. And if he decides that he wants to come back and you're in a place where you're still single, then, maybe you guys can, pursue something at that point. But right now it's not a place, it's not a position where you guys should be pursuing each other. It's not a place, and it's definitely not a place where you should be pursuing him. That's for sure. Lisa says, a guy I'm dating treats me like I'm an employee. He doesn't turn off work mode. Well, that's actually something, Lisa, that you can call out. Like, figure out what the behavior is that he's treating you like you're an employee and call it out. And then whenever he does it, call it that behavior. Have like create a name around it, like, boss mode or something, and then whenever he does it, go, oh, you're going into boss mode again. You're going into work mode again. You're going into, employer mode again or whatever. Right. And then what you'll do is you're creating awareness around it for him, which can actually help him out as well. Right. If you like him, but you're like, he keeps doing this, you'll create awareness for him. And then he'll be like, oh God, I'm doing that. And then it'll start creating these negative associations because you'll be like, hey, I don't like it. It's not attractive to me. It's really, when I'm around you, when you're doing that, it's a huge turnoff to me. And I don't like, I don't feel like I want to be around you. And I don't feel like I want to spend more time with you when you're doing that. Normally, I love being around you and I love spending time with you. And I love, being connected with you. And, when we're talking to each other and looking into each other's eyes and all that, whatever kind of stuff. But when you go into boss mode, it's just, it makes me feel disconnected to you. And like, you're not really there. You're like treating me like I'm everybody else. And that's, it's just gross, right? Use words like gross or creepy or something like that. And what you're doing is you're creating associations to this behavior that you're saying you don't like. And what that'll do is link it in his mind, right? Because guys don't want to be creepy. Guys don't want to be gross. Guys don't want to be those things. And if you start linking that behavior to that, he will start naturally just feeling like he wants to get away from that behavior. And then you give him behaviors that you'd rather see, and you associate it being hot or attractive or sexy or any of those kinds of things to it. And then he'll want to move towards those behaviors instead. Tammy says, I've learned so much from you. I learned so much from you. I've learned so much from you. Okay, I'll stop that. Crystal says, Matt, you are amazing. So much valuable advice. This information you share is so effective. I'm so glad you're here, Crystal. Thank you for being here. And I'm glad that you appreciate my voice. Obviously overly excited right now. Okay. Kriya says, I'm single. Why? I'm feeling that I'm scared to commit in a relationship. Hoo-hoo. A lot of people are scared to commit in relationships right now. That's a pretty common thing, and it's one of those things, especially if you've been hurt or if you've had problems in the past, or even if you're kind of like new to dating or whatever. A lot of people can have like a lot of fear because there's a lot of fear. It's like, oh, we're going to be together and it's just us. Am I making the right decision and all that kind of stuff, right? And you just want to take baby steps if you're in that kind of a space, and just do what you're comfortable with, right? Don't allow yourself to be pressured into anything. Don't do things that you're not comfortable with doing, and allow yourself to take time. And it might take some time, and it might take some healing. It might take some other things, and just do whatever it is that you need to do. Kyra, whatever your name is. Whatever your name is. Dana says, how to treat him if he takes me for granted. Well, what you want to do is you want to, it depends. It depends on your situation, right? Are you in a situation where you're in a committed relationship or a situation where you're dating? Because anything before a committed relationship, anything before either a ring on the finger or him looking at you and being like, it's just you and me and we're in this together and I will do whatever it takes to make this relationship work. Anything before that, exclusivity, boyfriend, girlfriend, all that kind of stuff is just dating. And so if you're just dating, my suggestion is that you see other people as well, and you pull yourself away, create a life outside of him that is enjoyable and has a whole bunch of interesting things going on, and live your best life and create a separate life, a separate identity, create things that you're really interested in doing and love doing outside and away from him, things that you are just, just love, right? And start spending more and more time doing those things and just communicate to him what's going on with you and what you're doing and all that kind of stuff. And if it's just like a law of familiarity thing, which if you're not familiar with the law of familiarity, what it states is that the more that we're around anything, the more that we start taking it for granted. So the common example I use is a song. So if you hear a song on the radio and you like it, you're like, oh, that's a great song, right? And you download it and you're listening to it all the time. And if you listen to it on repeat over and over and over again, eventually it's not going to have the same excitement as it used to have. And that can happen in a relationship as well if you guys are spending a whole bunch of time around each other. And so just pulling yourself away a lot of times will make him start feeling like he appreciates you more and all that kind of stuff. And if he doesn't, then you just need to communicate what's going on with you and communicate how you're feeling and what you want and what you don't want. And if he still doesn't do it, then you need to start thinking about leaving the situation and making yourself a priority and making sure that you only get into a situation where a guy treats you as a priority and not for granted. So Yep. Your sense of humor. Yep. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Our Sema says, Matthew, I love someone who's married. Also, he loves me before I didn't know he is married before. Well, our Sema, here's the deal. You know that he's married now. And so my suggestion is before you get hurt, because that's the most likely scenario, being the other woman, the usual outcome of being the other woman is that you get hurt, right? He might make a whole bunch of promises. No, I'm going to leave my wife for you, girl. All that kind of stuff. He probably won't. That's the reality of the situation. That's the truth that most women don't want to hear. And my suggestion is that you don't date men that are married. And yeah, you didn't know before, but you know now. And now that you know, that doesn't give you not knowing before doesn't give you an excuse to do it now. My suggestion is that you stay out of messy situations. The likelihood that a man's going to leave his wife for you is really low. And the likelihood that he will leave you, if he does leave his wife, is really, really high, because you're going to be the primary one, and then he's going to have another mistress. This is a pattern that people go through, right? Women do this as well. And so you don't want to be in this guy's pattern. And his pattern is probably something like he gets into a relationship with somebody, and then when things start going sideways or badly, or the passion isn't there as much anymore, he finds somebody else to replace the woman that he's with. And you are that woman right now. And my suggestion is that you cut him off, because it's just going to get worse from here. You're going to get more and more attached, and I'm in love, and he's going to leave, I'm in love. And he might not leave. There's a huge chance that he's not going to leave. And if he does leave, then there's a huge chance that he's eventually going to end up leaving you for somebody else. And so my suggestion is that you stay out of this situation. If he cheats on you, or if he cheats with you, he'll probably cheat on you. And so my suggestion is that you don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it, Arsema. Don't do it. Nayla says, what you do if you lived alone for a long time, you can adapt with another person. My suggestion is that, number one, you get rid of the language that you're using. Nayla, right now you're saying can't adapt. It's over here. So you're saying you can't adapt to living with another person? And the answer is you can adapt. You can break your old patterns and create new patterns. And the beginning of what you need to do is change your language from can't adapt to in the past, I couldn't adapt, but now I'm working on it. And then eventually you'll start finding evidence for ways that you have adapted and see how you've adapted and see what the process was for you taking on and adapting new behaviors, and start doing that more and more until you start building momentum. And then next thing you know, you're in a great relationship, living with somebody else. You've adapted. All the things that you used to believe about not being able to adapt, they're gone, they flew away. And you're like, oh, thank goodness I went to that live stream and listened to that crazy Matt Coast guy and started believing in myself and changed my language and recognized that I too can adapt and create something new for myself in my life. I'm not imprisoned to my old ways of being, but this new me, this new reality is something that I may, that I must, that I shall embrace. Right? That was a little overly dramatic. I know. But hopefully you got the point there, Neela. Sophia says, hi, Matthew. Thank you for all the wonderful lessons. I love my sense of wonder and curiosity. This example inspires others often. Awesome. That's just so awesome, Sophia. I'm glad. Keaton says, guy doesn't want a relationship because of his debt and pursuing his dream goals. I like him a lot. Help. Yeah, here's the help that you need, Keaton, is you need to pick up my program, the Forever Woman Formula. You can go pick it up for free and go to that website, watch the video, and check it out. You can get the program for free, theforeverwomanformula.com. And if you decide that you want to stay a part of the community, you'll get like 14 days of free coaching and extra videos and stuff. If you decide you want to stay a part of the program, you can continue on for a fee, but you get to keep the program regardless. And so my suggestion is you go check out that program and you start dating other people and you find a guy who wants to be with you and who's available to be with you. This guy is not available to be with you. And that's fine. That's okay. The problem is that you're attached to him and that you're going to continue to be attached to him. And the best thing that you can do is pick up a copy of my program so that you can get yourself unattached from this guy and find a guy who's ready. And if he decides that he isn't, if he figures out his debt problems and his work problems and decides that he wants to be with you, then he can do that at some point. If you're still single, then, you guys can potentially talk about it. But don't put all your eggs in a basket for a dude who doesn't want a relationship, right? This is the problem. See, I was talking to some people the other day about this. Like, who was I talking to? I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day. We were talking about the hookup culture and all the things that are going on right now. And what we determined was that, because, he was talking about, oh, men are doing this and men are doing that. And I was like, look, yeah, men are part of the problem here. And if women collectively tomorrow said, we aren't hooking up with dudes unless we're in a real committed relationship. If women collectively did that, if women collectively said, or if they said marriage, right? One of those two, men would fall in line. All the men would start falling in line and they would start getting into real committed relationships with women. But since women are allowing men to hook up with them, they aren't feeling it necessary to do. And so they're just running around going from, one girl to the next girl to the next girl, hooking up, not telling them they aren't ready for a relationship. And the woman's like, oh, well, I want, and they're like, oh, I gotta go with this guy, right? And it's a problem, and it's become a problem for everybody, right? So yeah, men have a absolute responsibility in this, and so do you. Right? Don't get into these situations. Don't hang out with guys and hook up with guys and allow men into your life and allow yourself to get attached to guys who aren't looking for a committed relationship. Just stop doing that completely altogether and pick up my program. Go to theforeverwomanformula.com. Changes people's lives. Get into good relationships where they want to commit, where they want something real. Where they want something real. Like they want something real. Susan says, I would say I love the fact that I'm aware of myself inside and also intuitive. I need to learn to trust it more. Yeah, there you go. There you go, Susan. There you go. There you go. There you go. Anisha, yes, I can read your messages. I can read your messages. Right. Right. Jane says, finally, I've woken my self-esteem listening to your videos. It feels great. Thank you so much. You're welcome. And my videos are actually designed to help you, even subconsciously. If you just listen to my videos over and over and over again, or you just watch the videos over and over, you don't even have to watch them. You can just listen to them, play them while you're walking around or whatever, download them and listen to them in your ears, and it'll change the way you think about yourself. These videos are designed to help you change the way that you're thinking about yourself, whether you actually do something or not. And so my suggestion is that you listen to these videos over and over and over again, and eventually you'll change the way that you think about yourself. Change it. Change the way you think about yourself. So Matt says, can you give an advice on how to stop contacting a guy who don't feel anything romantic for you, but you have feelings for? We were good friends before. Yeah, if you want advice on that, is you just need to get leverage. So just go talk to some of your friends and be like, hey, I'm like stuck on this dude and he's like totally not good for me because I'm like so into him and he like doesn't want nothing to do with me. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to block him on everything. And if I contact him, I have to give you $20. Right? And every time I contact him, I have to give you another $20. And if you keep doing that and you are good to your word, Met, then you will either be really broke or you will get enough pain from needing to pay your friends that you'll figure out a way to stop contacting this dude. Stop contacting this dude. Yeah, Kim says, I'm setting boundaries and being very clear with my communication with my guy friend. He needs counseling and doesn't reply or ignores me. Yeah, I mean, do you want that in your life, Kim? You're allowing it in your life right now. Do you want it in your life? My suggestion is that you don't. You don't do it. Just if people ignore you, give them a warning. Let them know. Be like, hey, that behavior is not okay with me, and I don't want you to ignore me. And if you ignore me, that's a problem. And if he continues to do it, then do yourself a favor and ignore him until he gets his stuff together or forever, one or the other. Just do it. Just do it. Semi-Precious 007 says, hi, Matt, what do you think about a partner hiding their social media from you? It happened in a previous relationship and gave me red flags, but I didn't know how to handle it. What should one do? Well, I mean, you can call out the behavior, right? It kind of depends, because sometimes guys will hide things from women because they know that women will overreact about it, because they will, right? It's a part of things, right? And sometimes guys overreact about lots of things as well, obviously. And women are notorious for overreacting about things that don't matter. And so, or at least things to the guy that he perceives don't matter. And so if you are the kind of person who overreacts to little things and gets upset and freaks out and goes crazy, then you might want to look at that first, right? Like, look at that first. That's the first thing, right? That's taking ownership of your behavior and your communication. Well, the other behavior in communication is him, not allowing you to see his social media accounts, which if you aren't exhibiting those kind of crazy behaviors, then it is a giant red flag. And how you handle it is, one, by having real communication, right? Just sitting down and being like, hey, what's going on? Like, let's talk about this. If you're in a real relationship with somebody, I'm a huge fan of real communication. A lot of women come to me and they like ask me questions that they should be asking their man that they're in a relationship with. It's like, why are you hiding your social media? Why does he hide his social media? That's a question that you should ask him, right? Like, what's going on there? Give me a straight answer. And if he won't give you a straight answer, then that's a huge red flag. And you just need to pay attention to it, right? You can't control him and what he's going to do. What though, based on that, is that there's something worth hiding in his social media. And what you can do is just be like, look, it's fine if you hide your social media from me, but here's the deal. I'm going to take it as the worst possible scenario, that you're hiding your social media from me, that maybe you're married to somebody else, or maybe that you've got a girl on the side, or you're in some kind of gay midget sex party group, and you put all your fetish videos on your social media. I'm just going to assume it's one of those things, right? Not sure which one it is, but I'm going to assume that it's one of those. Maybe it'll be the gay midget porn thing that you're into. I don't know. I don't care. But I'm going to assume it's one of those. And based on that, I'm going to have to make a decision about what it is that I do in this relationship. And based on those things, it's not looking good. It's not looking good here. And so you can either show it to me and allow me to see it and be transparent with me and allow me to see what's going on with you, or, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I want to be with someone who is completely transparent. I want to be able to tell my partner anything. I want for him to be able to tell me anything. And if you're hiding things, deliberately hiding things, it's not the kind of relationship that I want to be a part of, right? And so what you're doing there is you're creating a power move where you're saying, I'm going to walk away from this scenario, because there's some kind of weird, crazy gay midget clown porn going on your social media sites that you won't show me. If you'd show it to me, maybe I can be into it. Maybe I can be a part of this. Maybe I can love it with you. Am I saying this? Have I gone off the rails here? Have I gone off the rails here? Oh my God. Okay. So two Win says, a guy lied, verified, and I communicated how that made me feel. In your opinion, expertise, do you think he's showing me who he is and I should move on? Well, no, not necessarily. It depends on, one, the size of the lie, and two, how many times he's lied, right? And like what it's about, right? So let me give you an example. When I went to Denver one time. I used to live in Denver, but I went there one time and I stayed in this Airbnb, and I met this couple in this Airbnb who were getting married, or maybe they just gotten married. Yeah, that's what it was. They just gotten married, and I was, I'm Mr. Relationship guy. So I'm like, tell me all about it. Right. And he was like, they were talking about, how they met and all that kind of stuff. And the guy was like, yeah, honestly, like I lied to her in my online dating profile, when we talked, and if I didn't, we would have never met and never gotten married. And she was like, yeah, it's true. He put that he was 6 foot tall and he's actually 5'11". Right. And I only date guys who are 6 foot tall. And so I would have never met him if he would have said that he was actually just 5'11". And so I ended up meeting him and I fell in love with him, and, he's the love of my life and we're getting married now. But, like at the beginning, there was this lie, and it's one of those things where, yeah, that's a deceptive thing. And what you want to look for after you see that is you want to look for a pattern. Are there patterns here of him lying consistently, or is this kind of a one-time thing and he did it because he felt embarrassed or he felt like you wouldn't like him or any of that kind of stuff, right? And so what's going on there? And so that's what you should do, is you should look for patterns, because if it's a one-time thing and it's not that big of a deal, or it's something that you can forgive, then it might not be that big of a deal. But if there's a pattern that happens there, then you know that it's a problem. What you are learning about in terms of him is that in certain situations, he's willing to lie, which I think everybody is, right? In certain situations, you're, in a situation where somebody's going to die or something, if you don't lie and you end up telling a lie, most people would do something like that, right? They've done studies on this, and they found that the overwhelming majority of people would lie if it like meant somebody's life or saving your child, or, I don't know, whatever. So you want to make sure that you just want to look at it from a practical standpoint. That's it. So that's it for this video. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Make sure you go check out the Forever Woman Formula at theforeverwomanformula.com. You are awesome. I am so grateful for you allowing me to be a part of your journey into getting into the relationship that you always wanted. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and I will speak with you again soon. And always remember, you are worth it. Have a good day.